Welcome back to Dumbest in the Room. Today's guest is Anthony Raspanti. He's a landscaper. He owns his own business. Anthony, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I've known you for probably over 10 years.
Yeah.
We met at Broad Bay Country Club. I was working there as a cart attendant, and you were working as an assistant superintendent.
That's correct.
How'd you end up there?
Kind of just by chance. We were living in Northern Virginia at the time and felt like coming home. Broad Bay needed an assistant. I'd been in the golf business for many years, and I took the position.
So landscaping is something that, you know, the average DIYer thinks they know how to do. So how there's a lot more to it.
There is definitely a lot more to it. What we do is a vast field of different sectors. There's hardscaping, turf care, landscape installation, maintenance, ornamental care. I mean, there's so much that goes into landscaping and a lot of science behind it that most people really don't know about. I mean, just for one element, arbor. People go to school just for trees alone. Mm-hmm. So that's one element. You know, there is a proper way to trim a tree. You don't just go out there with your chainsaw and start whacking at it. There's a certain way that you want to cut. Certain trees need to be cut at different times. So, I mean, there's just a lot more than people really think that goes into just landscaping.
Yeah, I mean, you've already blown my mind. I didn't know that there was different times to cut trees in different ways. Let's back up. You said people go to school for arbor. Did you go to school for this, or did you kind of learn in the school of hard knocks?
A little bit of both. I actually went to school for turf science. Okay. I was a turf science major, Rutgers University. They've got Virginia Tech, Penn State. There's a lot of good schools. Ohio State offer very prestigious turf programs. There's doctorates in turf science alone, and that's just one tiny aspect of what we do. But I am a turf certified applicator, commercial certified 3B, 3A, which means I am licensed in the state of Virginia to spray grass and trees and shrubs. So I'm not an arborist. I'm not a certified arborist, but we do practice the same practices that they use.
Elaborate on being a turf scientist. I mean, what all goes into that? Obviously, if there's a school for it, there's more than meets the eye.
So turf science is basically the study of grass. There's a lot of different types of grasses. There's a lot of fungal infections that can attack your turf. So basically what we study is how to successfully grow and maintain grass at its optimum level.
Wow. And what is the optimum level? I mean, how do you get it there?
Just cultural practices, proper mowing heights, proper sharp blades. This one thing that people overlook a lot is they don't have sharp blades, or they're not regularly sharpening their blades. It is vital to have a sharp blade. Without that good edge, the grass will actually tear. When it tears, it's damaged. It takes time to heal. It's more susceptible to disease. It's the cultural practices are the important elements to being successful. And people really overlook those times. They think that, hey, we're just going to go cut your grass. Mm-hmm. And we're definitely not doing that. We are doing so much more. We are keeping the soil pHs correct. We are fertilizing at the right time with the right products. It's a really in-depth field just in turf science alone. And again, that's just one really small aspect of everything that we do.
With like the pHs, is that something you do on everybody's yard, or is that something that people have to request?
It is an additional service we do for our turf care clients. We will do normally 2 samples a year, where we'll take soil samples from different parts of their yard, send it down to Virginia Tech, get it analyzed, and then based off of the results is how we cater your turf plan to each individual client. So nobody's yard is the same.
Wow. That's crazy. So I mean, what is the ideal pH? Does it just depend on like the water table and stuff like that? Or I mean,
It depends on the grass.
yeah.
Fescue is a very common grass that we have in this area. That likes a more neutral pH, kind of in the 6-7 ballpark. But to give you an example of a common shrub, azaleas are a very common shrub that's found around here. Mm-hmm. That is an acidic loving plant. So that plant will thrive better with a little bit of soil acidity.
Wow. Did not know that. So and I'm going to talk about this because where I live, we just got aerated out there. When you like pulled up, are you looking at the grass? And when you go places, are you looking at grass like, oh man, they're blowing it? Like
all the time. That's all I see. Everywhere we go, I'm always critiquing and just seeing everything. It's even my guys get trained to do that as well. It's really fun to watch the guys start to do that for themselves. Yeah. We'll be riding in the truck, and one of the newer guys will be like, "Oh my God, look at that!" I see that now, and it's fun.
That's funny because skateboarding, which is my background, is the same way because we look at a handrail and say, "Look at that handrail," and somebody else would just not even notice it. So yeah. That's funny to think about it with grass and shrubs. Talk more about the different kinds of grass. We'll start with, because we know each other from the golf course. Obviously, there's the greens and then the fairway and all that. So go from there and then to the average yard.
So from Broad Bay Country Club, Broad Bay greens are bent grass with a mix of poana. You don't really want the poana in there, but it finds its way. So that's one of the things that as a turf manager you're trying to do is suppress the poana and promote the bent grass. So you cater a program for the greens to be more friendly for the bent grass to thrive and kind of try to push the poana out, but they're both cool season grasses. So the herbicides are very limited to which you can apply. So it does get tricky. And the greens are definitely the most sensitive part. The watering schedule, the mowing schedule, everything for the greens is definitely much more intense than your regular lawn would be.
When you're saying bent grass, I know I would see you guys roll that thing over. Is that where it gets its bend, or does it grow a bent way?
It creeps. So instead of growing really vertically, it kind of grows outward a lot.
Interesting.
It's great for golf course greens, except we are in the mid-Atlantic transition zone. So we can have both warm and cool season turf and shrubs, trees and shrubs. So with the bent grass, it gets very sensitive in the summer. You ever remember me going around with the hose? Mm-hmm. I was doing a lot of hand watering. I lived at the golf course in the summertime, just dragging that hose around from green to green to green. Yep. And that's one thing that is very different from your regular lawn. Is your regular lawn is just good with a morning watering. Golf course greens require lots of chemical adjustments, soil adjustments, and then constant hand watering to keep the cool season grass alive. Now, the fairways are going to be more like what your yard is. The fairways at Broad Bay in the rough is Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass is a very common turf grass that you would find on your average lawn.
Yeah.
That is pretty much maintained just about the same way. You fertilize it at the same time. Probably cut it a little bit shorter at the golf course. Bermuda grass likes to be kind of around the 1 inch to 1.5 inch. Mm-hmm. But it does really, really well at a 1/2 inch, all the way down to, they've got Bermuda grass greens at some of the locations in the area, which is kind of new for Virginia.
Bermuda, is it from Bermuda? Are these grasses imported?
I don't know if it originates in Bermuda. It's a good question.
I'll have to find out.
Yeah, I'll have to ask somebody about that. I've got a lot of peers and resources from Rutgers that I still contact regularly. So.
Sweet. So from Broad Bay, you started your own business.
Yes, AR Landscapes LLC. Been in business since 2011.
Awesome. So were you doing it congruently with?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, it was tough.
Okay.
It was very tough.
Okay. Because I was like, I was at Broad Bay around that time.
Yeah, it was. I'd in between green watering, morning green watering and afternoon green watering. I'd go cut lawns.
Yeah. In the neighborhood? Same
Yeah,
neighborhood?
yeah, a lot of them in Broad Bay area. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, okay, so, that brings up drive. I mean, you have a lot of drive, and I see you on Facebook. You're working all the time. I mean, how do you manage?
It's tougher in the summertime. Wintertime is definitely the recovery time for us. We get a little bit of a break sometimes. I'll take on some construction projects occasionally that will kind of make the winter a little bit more intense.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard to balance work and family time. And then, attempting to try to find some time for myself in there is just non-existent.
Yeah.
So
in the winter, do you do like leaf removal and snow removal and all that stuff?
yeah, we actually, for the last couple of years, we've been plowing the light rail stations down in Norfolk.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd you get that?
Buddy of mine's contract. He subs it.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Okay, let's talk about like maintaining a lawnmower. I mean, tips for the average Joe.
Okay. Well, definitely, like we were talking earlier, the blades, keep your blades sharp. It's not, you want to sharpen them. I'd say if you're cutting your lawn at least once a week, sharpen your blades at least once a month. Don't go all season without sharpening them. You'll notice a big difference by keeping a sharper blade. Just the health of the lawn, the appearance, it's going to be so much more vibrant, and it's so important to keep those blades sharp. It's fairly easy to sharpen them. Just a little grinder wheel, just put a little quick edge on it. It takes less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
And that's doing 3 blades for each machine.
Yeah.
So
what about like a watering regimen?
for watering, for fescue lawns, and everybody's lawn is going to be different, but for most fescue lawns during the summertime, you're going to want to go with 3 heavy waters a week. Upping that to every day during periods of drought. And then in the springtime, and this is very important, in the springtime, do not overwater. I drive around, I'm seeing people's water running twice a day, 3 times a day. You don't need to do that. In the springtime, you want the grass to develop a good root system. That root system is going to help it get what it needs to get through the summertime a lot better with deeper roots. By constantly watering or overwatering, you're top feeding. So the roots aren't going to need to go down deep to get to the lower levels of the soil. And then summertime's going to come and they're not going to have any roots. So in the springtime, minimal water. Only water when it needs it.
Talk about the seasons, because right now it's fall, and these, like I said, these dudes just aerated and seeded. I mean, is fall the right time for that?
Absolutely. For fescue.
Okay.
Fescue lawn's a cool season grass. You definitely want to do a fall aeration and seeding. If you have a full healthy lawn, you don't need to seed. Just do the aeration. Aeration pokes the holes in the ground, pulls out the plugs. That allows water, air to get down to the roots, nutrients to get to the roots, and it allows the gases in the soil to escape. So aeration is definitely a vital thing. It needs to be done every single year. It can even be done 2 or 3 times a year. You can do one in the spring, summer, and fall. Summer one you need to be careful with, though, because you are opening up the soil. It's going to cause the soil to dry out quicker, so you are going to need to increase your watering for a summer aeration.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it.
And that's just one. We're just talking cool season. Yeah, warm season's a whole different animal.
We'll talk warm season.
All right. For warm season maintenance, you do your aerations and seedings are going to be in like a May, June, July. I wouldn't really. We've seeded in August before. It came in good, but that's the weather. The weather plays a large factor into our success rates. If we can get certain things done at the right times, they're going to come out so much better than trying to force a job into a closing window. We actually, and we do it all the time. People book late. You know, they'll call us around this time. You know, like, hey, can you come out and look at my yard? I want to put some grass seed down. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. You're like missed the window, but sure, we'll come out. We'll see what we can do. We'll see how bad it is. So one thing we won't do is if we can't do something or it's not going to turn out correct, we advise the customer in that direction. You know, like, hey, you missed it. I'm sorry, we can't do this at this time. You know, we present them with an alternate plan and then reapproach what they want to do next year at the correct time.
Mm-hmm. Is there somebody like who's maybe shady that might not do what you do and be upstanding and they might?
I'm not going to say, you know, that I mean, there's of course people out there that don't take pride in what they do and are more just looking for the quick buck.
Yeah.
You know, those guys don't last long.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see in our business who's doing the good work and who's not.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I see a lot of things out there that are being done that I disagree with. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that there's people that say the same about what we do. We all try to do the best we can, but ultimately it comes down to, are you doing the right things at the right time? Mm-hmm. Not forcing jobs into the wrong windows. Somebody that, you know, trying to sell Bermuda grass to, you know, someone that right now would just, it's not going to happen. There's no way. It's just too cold. It all boils down to the soil temperatures. If the soil temperatures are correct, then it's going to work. If they're not, it's not going to work. And it's just that simple.
Wow. Let's talk about, like, when would somebody benefit from sod over seed?
So sod is so much easier. It's a one and done. Mm-hmm. We come in, we lay it, and boom, there's your yard. It is definitely a little bit more on the cost factor than seeding, but it's so much easier to start your yard out from sod than seed. No matter what kind of seed you buy, you can buy the most expensive seed there is out there. It's still going to have inert material. There's some weed seeds in it, and that's just unavoidable. So whenever you're seeding a yard, weeds are going to break through, and then you're going to have to kind of chase those and then push the yard to get it to fill back in. So it's a little bit of a dance. Anytime we grow in a yard, from, somebody's who, let's say they had a bunch of moss, not really any grass, or in a lot of cases that we find, it's just all weeds. It's funny, man. We'll walk the yards, and I mean, literally looking around, like, there's not a blade of grass on this entire property.
That's my parents' front yard.
Tell them to call. And it's just wild that, people will be like, oh yeah, I need you to come cut my grass, and we get there and there's no grass. It's just all weeds. And weeds when weeds are cut very, very short, they can look decent from afar for like 2 days, especially in the summertime. And then they're going to start getting that uneven look, that ripple kind of look to them. And weeds all grow differently. They grow at different rates. Nutsedge is a very, very annoying warm season weed.
Did you pick that because I have one nut?
No, I didn't. No, it's actually, it was the biggest pain in my butt at Broad Bay. I was constantly spraying for nutsedge. It grows about 5 times faster than any other weed, and it just shoots straight up, like your little ornamental grass that you got going back there. I like it. It's plastic.
Yeah,
it is. It pretty much looks like that. So, well, the rest of your turf grass is going to be maintained at Bermuda grass, especially. It's going to be maintained short. Let's say 3/4 of an inch. You've got this wiry, shot of nuts edge that's just shooting up, growing at about 9 inches a day. It seems like really not that fast, but it's impressive at its growth rates.
Yeah.
And it's just it looks like crap, nice manicured yard, and then boom, you got these little shoots shooting up everywhere, and it drives me nuts.
Let's dive deeper into the moss, because that is a problem that my parents have, and they've always had it. They've had different landscapers, I won't name, come out. Not you. You haven't been there yet.
There you go. There you go.
But it's all, I mean, it's almost all moss. There's some grass, maybe it's weeds now that you're saying it, but
They have a lot of shade.
they do have a lot of shade.
Yeah, so shade, moss likes a shady, moist environment. I know that I remember seeing pictures from back in the day. You had the half pipe back there. That's awesome, man. Yeah. I used to love to ride, dude, BMX.
Yeah.
It was a lot of wood lines.
Yeah.
So some areas are just inevitable. Like, you're not going to be able to grow grass there. I do have a green thumb. I am pretty good at growing grass in a lot of places. But some places just grass will not grow. Fighting Mother Nature is tough.
Yeah.
Anytime you're trying to do that, you're going to be spending a lot of money. It's going to need a very in-depth, detailed maintenance plan, and it's going to get expensive.
Yeah.
So if it's an area where grass will not grow, we always recommend, hey, let's do a bed. Throw a little dirt down, put a little mulch, boom, now it looks good. So definitely with the moss, there are areas that can also, though, we can grow grass there.
Yeah.
If it gets some sunlight. So for your parents' house, as an example, how much sunlight does it get?
I mean, it peeks through.
Okay.
Not crazy amount.
Okay, so like 4 hours a day, or not even.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, never paid attention.
No,
I know most people don't. We're weirdos. Like we watch, the sun. We're watching how much shade an area gets, how much sunlight an area gets. I mean, we're paying attention to so many elements that most people just don't.
Yeah.
So for your parents, if they really, really wanted to have a yard, first thing we need to do is come in and cut some trees, which we do. I love to cut trees. Tree. So you come in, take some trees out, grind up the stumps to, clean up all that mess, bring some soil in, regrade the yard. Sod's always easier, but we could either sod or seed from that point, and then providing that they take care of it, water correctly, it would do really well. And if they want to put an irrigation system in, after we did the initial grade, then come in, put the irrigation system in before the sod or seed.
How often do you have clients who, you just get them started, you give them kind of the tools, and then they take over, versus, you lay the foundation and then you stay with it?
So I'd say it's probably about a 60-40 rate, maybe 70-30. Most clients, once they see the work that we do, end up just continuing services with us, because we've now just built them a beautiful yard or a beautiful patio, or bed. Bed design is a new hobby of mine that I'm dabbling in. I think I'm getting kind of good at it.
Yeah.
But we'll build these beautiful things, or completely revamp an area, and then the clients will typically have us continue maintenance. We do have the few that want that have their green thumb and want to take over themselves, but typically they'll have us do it for about a year.
Yeah.
One full growing season is what I always recommend.
Going back to the people who you say call you late, I mean, if they do go with that shady guy who will just do it for the quick buck, I mean, they're probably the next year, they're like, oh, frick, man.
They call, man. It's funny. Like I had a lady the other day, who actually is going with the cheaper guy. And looking at the photographs of this woman's yard, I hadn't made it over there yet in person, but I can tell from the photographs it's all crabgrass. Crabgrass is a nasty little weed, very tough to kill, and our resources to kill it are limited. The Department of Agriculture has restricted the use of certain products, which effectively kill crabgrass quickly. Crabgrass, goosegrass, Dallas grass are my three, I'd say my three toughest adversaries when it comes to turf management. But the lady, back to the lady, she went with the cheaper guy. And I said, well, that's fine. I do wish you the best of luck. But I said, please tell me he's going to spray first, right? And she was like, no, he's just going to aerate and seed. I said, well, give me a shout when none of that grass seed germinates through that thick canopy of crabgrass that you got, and we'll come in and do it right.
Wow.
I don't think she liked that too much, but I'm sorry.
She'll be calling you next year.
Yeah, she'll definitely be calling.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny, though. Let's get back into the hustle. How are you getting jobs through word of mouth? Are you going up to these houses that you say, I see that it can be done better, and you knock on their door? Like, how?
Mostly, I'd say 90% of it's just word of mouth. That's pretty much how we started. We don't really do much advertising. I've got some flyers that we don't hand out. Business cards get handed out frequently. A lot of times after we do one yard in a neighborhood, we'll end up picking up like 5 or 6 additional yards. Or the homeowners themselves will ask for a stack of cards, and when their neighbors are, oh, who did that? They'll pass out our cards. So it's pretty much just all word of mouth. When you do quality work and, really put in the effort and go the extra mile, our slogan is, it's all in the details. And it really is. It's the little details that really stand out in what we do. That's
true. How have you grown? I mean, when you started, it was just you, I assume, and then now what are you doing?
So when I first started, it was me and the amigos. The boys were right there. They liked working. I liked working. So I started out with just the golf course crew. Those guys would come give me a hand after work. Excuse me. We would work, a lot of times we'd work till dark. So we'd get off at 4:30, 5 o'clock after we've watered greens, and then we'd go cut grass or take down tree limbs, mulch. So I had a crew pretty much right from the start. And then we've continued with just various different crews of different size. Some years have been bigger crews than others. Some years we've done more construction, which requires more people. I think we had at the beginning of this year, I had about 9 guys that were full-time. Wow. It's kind of dwindled, though, with the whole COVID scene. Really changed a lot of elements as far as where we're pulling from, where we're pulling to try to get our staff from. Just the quality of staff. A lot of guys just don't want to work as much as they used to. Seems like everybody kind of got a little bit lazy over that COVID stretch. We actually stayed working the entire time. Yeah. It was awesome. There was nobody on the roads. We were flying around everywhere.
Yeah, I love that too.
We really got things done.
Talk about you have this crew, this crew that kind of ebbs and flows, but when you have multiple jobs and you can't be at every single one, how do you trust that they will do the job that you would want them to do?
So typically I will have a point man, an assistant, kind of like I was to Mark or Jay, the various guys that I assisted on the different golf courses over the years. I typically have an assistant, and I will leave him in charge of jobs when I'm not there. When we have a larger crew,
or multiple crews. Typically, I won't run more than 2 or 3 jobs at one time. So if I do have an assistant, we can at least run 2 at a time. If I have a foreman, we run 3 at a time. And those guys are guys that have just worked with me for at least a season, preferably. I find that even when guys come in to AR landscapes that have 5, 6, 7 years in the business, they're not quite AR landscape level yet. I run it kind of just like the golf course. You know, that's the level of detail that I like. It's the level that I'm used to doing. And guys just really on these commercial crews and stuff, they're just not doing it to that level. I don't know. Everybody kind of needs a little bit of time underneath my belt before I'll set them free. So anybody that's new that comes onto the crew, I will typically keep with me for at least the first couple months. That way I can kind of get them up to speed to where they need to be to do the work on their own. And a lot of times these guys are good. Once they get to that point, they can typically reproduce things the way that I like them done. But you got to watch them. You definitely got to watch them. You got to, you know, I find myself going behind them. Let's just say, you know, my weed eating skills are still top notch.
And it's hard work though. I mean, like you say, people got lazy. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart.
No, it is tough. It's out in the elements. I mean, we work, you know, rain, wind, and snow. We're out there getting it. It's definitely the hardest job that I've ever done. And I've passed up 3/4, you know, boards all day long. And that's some heavy wood. But it's a hard job. I come home very tired, worn out. I will say that it did.
Do you sleep well?
Oh, like a baby. My wife hates it. You know, I'll come home and just, you know, lay down on the couch for just like a second, and I'm gone. I'm out. I'm snoring.
Earned it though.
Oh yeah. I eat good. I sleep good. It gives you endurance. You get a lot of strength that you didn't know you had. You get a lot of endurance. You know, guys go to the gym. You know, I can work out for an hour in the AC too, you know, but doing physical work for 8-10 hours a day, 6-7 days a week. There's not everybody that can run with that. We're a small select group of just oddballs that like the abuse, I guess.
Talk about working in the elements. I mean, recently we've had extremely hot days. Also the coldest of cold days.
So you know, through the summertime, I tell the guys, you know, we have a mandatory 45-minute water break. And a lot of times these guys laugh at me when I say that. Like, you know, I really care about my guys. So I force them to make sure they hydrate. So a lot of the new guys, they don't really get that. You know, they're thinking, oh, I've been out in the heat. I've worked outside before, you know, but they're the guys that are the first ones to hit the ground because of heat exhaustion. We have 2 or 3 every single year that, you know, have basically a heat stroke, where, you know, we've got to get them to the emergency room. They've got to get hydrated immediately. And there's always a couple of guys each year that just don't take it seriously. And you have to. The heat is not something that you want to play with. When it's 110 degrees outside and just you can't keep water in you. You really got to be careful, and you got to watch yourself and look for the signs of heat exhaustion.
As the business owner, I mean, how important is that to you? Because you're in a way, I mean, they're responsible for themselves, but you're responsible for their well-being too. They're on your job site.
Oh, I'm immensely watching and overseeing to make sure. I mean, these guys are the lifeblood of the business. They're the ones that are really doing the hard jobs. You know, I get out there and work when I can. You know, I do have a little bit of the luxury of, you know, going from estimate to estimate So I'll catch a little AC break where these guys don't. They've got to really, I train my assistants, foremans to watch closely. If a guy stops sweating, he's run out of fluids.
Yeah.
There's nothing left to leak out. We got to get him out of the heat. He's got to get into the truck. He's got to, we'll blast the AC. I mean, I've had my truck running from the beginning of the day until the end of the day, just keeping that AC on to kind of rotate guys in and out of it, just to give them a little bit of a break. Get them out of the heat, let them get some water or get some cold air. Sometimes we're on jobs, for 2-3 weeks at a time, doing some of these construction jobs and installs where, it's full sun the whole time. There's no shade.
Yeah.
It's a construction site.
Yeah.
No
shade until you build it.
Exactly. There you go. We'll plant it.
Yeah. Okay. So you said two things there that stand out to me, and I want to go down each rabbit hole. So where you are the business owner, you are doing not just the work, but you're also doing kind of the administrative stuff. Talk about that.
So essentially I am my own secretary. I do have a secretary. She's awesome. But a lot of times, I'm putting together, nobody's inside my head. So takes a lot of paperwork on my end to be able to even get these things to where other people can take it over. Yeah. So I am doing a lot of the invoicing, the estimates. I'm doing all of the sales. I wear many hats. I definitely do. I'm overseeing the crew. I'm keeping the equipment maintained. I'm also the mechanic. So stuff's broke down a lot, unfortunately. It's just how it is. We're hard on the equipment. If something breaks down, I've got to go fix it. I might be out trying to sell a job, and I get a phone call, hey, man, the mower's down. I'm on my way, and stop what I'm doing, shoot over there, fix that. Get another call. Hey, man, I'm stuck over here. We ran into a problem, and then I'm shooting over here to do that. Then after work, I'm, taking everybody's notes, turning those into invoices, making sure those get sent out, submitting. We do a lot of realty work. Realty jobs need photographs. They need extensive notes. They want a lot of information. So I got to get all that, from chicken scratch notes to a guy, writing it on his pack of cigarettes, basically, to a professional invoice, detailed invoice. Like I said, I do have a secretary now, which is awesome. But her and I have to work very closely together to make sure that things are getting translated properly from one element to an invoice or an estimate, or making sure that these guys get their schedulings correct.
I'm surprised that you're able to sleep as well as you are. Not really because you work so hard, but also because you work so hard. How is your mind not racing?
It does. So when I say I sleep hard, I do sleep hard for about all 3 hours of it. I sleep about 3-4 hours a night through the season. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I've gotten used to it, but oh man, it's a good 3 hours.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning. I was up at 5 a.m. today working on my truck.
Yeah.
The truck that we bought in 2016. Made the last payment on it, and then the wheels are falling off the thing. So it's I'm underneath that thing about once a week now, and so there's never short of excitement or something to do. Yeah, that's for sure.
Backing up to the second thing other rabbit hole I wanted to go down is estimates. So when you show up, how do you estimate how much it's going to cost? And, what happens when you see on these HGTV shows, they run into a problem and it costs $20,000 more. How do you give a proper estimate?
So we try to anticipate those problems. Experience dictates that. We're not always right. There can be times that we underbid, and it sucks.
Yeah.
It really does. Depending on the contractual agreements of that specific job, you know, we could end up eating some of the costs of that. And a lot of times we do. I try to create our contracts to be very fair and even, but at the same time, when it boils down to it, ultimately, it's not my house.
Yeah.
I had one guy one year, you know, he was like, well, you should split the costs with me. And I was like, well, me and my kids come over and swim in your pool whenever we want to, because that's the only way that's going to happen,
Yeah.
you know? Now we ended up doing, you know, reaching an agreement to where, you know, we endured the element that we were responsible for. But ultimately, you know, it was his yard. He had to make some change ups. He wanted sod. We went with seed, you know, as one way to cut the cost elements of one aspect of it, because, you know, it's not my fault that there's a massive piece of concrete in the center of your yard where we want to plant trees.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what am I supposed to dig up the whole property and remove that thing at my costs? No. You know, we just move the trees.
Yeah.
Or you know, you're not gonna. Sorry, sir. That bed's not going there. You know,
Yeah.
let's leave it turf. So there's different ways that we can handle it, but I will say that normally there's at least a problem that will arise on every single job.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah, once you start digging in the ground, man, you find weird stuff.
What do you mean?
Well, like the piece of concrete thing, man. We were installing the trees over at the Buckrow Beach entrance, and I guess there used to be a Ferris wheel. Yeah, it was before my time. But there used to be a Ferris wheel there, and there was literally like a 20 by, I don't know, I'd say maybe 20 by 8. And I mean, this stuff was probably about 2 foot thick.
Wow.
Just slab of concrete right in the middle of where like 4 big trees and burlap ball, you know, root ball trees had to be planted. And
It was underground.
Yeah, it was underground.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm digging with the excavator, man, and it's just I'm like, what the. Like, I'm starting to, like, go, like, hard with it, trying to bash into this thing. I'm, like, trying to find the edge. Like, you know, like, what the heck is this? Hey, what's that? Well, come here, look. Like, what the heck? And, you know, we ended up, like, scratching because I'm just trying to find the edge of this thing so I could rip it out of there.
Yeah.
Well, there was no, like, I mean, I went for, you know, we're like an hour and a half into me, like, just scratching around trying to find the edge of this thing, and I couldn't. And finally, I called my buddy, and I'm like, dude, what the heck is going on here, bro? Like, there's this never-ending piece of concrete right in the way.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, man, that's the old Ferris wheel. And I'm like, what Ferris wheel? There's never been a Ferris wheel here. And he's like, yeah, dude, it was like in the 80s, and it was a piece of shit. Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right.
But yeah, we didn't plant the trees there. We ended up, I mean, we planted like 2 of them that were kind of on the edge. We kind of checked a little bit off the root ball, but enough that the tree would still do okay. And plant some flowers and stuff, some smaller shrubs in that area. But it's forever. You know, you kind of got to roll with it.
Yeah.
Some stuff you just can't move.
Let's talk about, you design stuff, like design landscapes. Okay, so talk about like when you're designing that. I mean, what all goes into that process?
So horticulture has become my new passion. I'm not a certified or educated landscape designer by any means. I'm no landscape architect. But I've been doing this for 20 years now. I've seen a lot of things that I like. I've seen a lot of things that work. Ultimately, the most important thing when I design a landscape is that, will this survive here? Is this plant the right plant for this environment? You know, you'll see these commercial landscapes thrown together. And like, I mean, everybody was just planting Indian hawthorns like crazy. And then Indian hawthorns ended up getting black spot, which is just a nasty little virus. It wipes them all out. I mean, you hardly even see any Indian hawthorns now.
I don't even know what that is.
It's not even an attractive plant. It's kind of really dull. It's like a good low growing barrier. It's doesn't create any privacy or anything like that. It's 3 to 4 feet. But it's just, variegated leaf. The berries weren't really attractive either. I don't know. It's just not. I like colorful, pop. But a lot of times with color, you've got to have sufficient light.
Yeah.
Colorful, beautiful, bursting plants don't like to grow in the shade. Light is definitely a key element in designing a landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be enough light for this plant? Does it like full sun? Does it like part shade? Does it do well with drought tolerant? We're by the ocean. How salt tolerant is it? A lot of salt in the air up at the ocean front. So all of those factors go into what's going to get planted where.
Interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, you just don't go throw that. Hey, that's a good place. Let's drop a tree here.
Yeah, because that's what I would probably do.
And your tree would die.
Let's back up again to, you mentioned like you do the maintenance on everything. How often is it, if at all, that a job just has to get done by deadline? The mower's down, can't fix it. Do you rent one?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I was going to say we have several rental equipment accounts.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Luckily, there are great rental centers around here that normally have equipment available for us.
Is that where you would eat a cost, or is that like, does your insurance cover like the breakdown of the thing and like cover a rental?
So on certain equipment is covered by our insurance. We do have a great insurance plan. Actually, just had some equipment stolen right out of the back of the truck, man.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a lot of that over the last 2 years.
What do people do? I mean, are they starting their own landscaping business, or are they selling it somewhere?
Actually, I would think there's probably a little bit of both, man. But more than likely, it's probably getting hopped to like a pawn shop, or just an illicit guy that's buying stolen goods. But there was a story last year that I heard. It was like a white Chevy and a red Ford that were running around. And I mean, I actually heard like one guy's entire trailer with mowers on it and everything got swiped. The dude saw his trailer go by. Like, that's my stuff. So they ended up catching the guy, and I mean, he was out cutting grass.
Yeah.
He just took dude's stuff and started his own company. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like, really, bro? Go get a loan, man. Like, don't screw your credit up. Finance. Like, you could go to Atlantic Coats, man, and walk out of there with a company. Yeah. They sell everything. One-stop shop. It's basically what we did.
Yeah.
So went in there with a nice little shopping spree loan and bought everything that, I'd need to go cut grass, and, we just grew from there. But, I mean, this guy's stolen, literally stole the mowers in the trailer right out from underneath the guy. It's crazy.
So when your stuff got stolen out of the back of the truck with your insurance, I mean, did you have to file a claim and then go through that whole red tape, or...
Yeah, we just.
So were you down for a little while, or you just went and got something and then kind of
the
made
dude?
It work later?
Luckily, the dude. So we lock the equipment up. There was I had the pole saw in the back of my truck that day. The pole saw doesn't really have anything that you can harness the cable to. We kind of just wrap it around it so it looks nice.
Yeah.
I guess somebody saw that and just swiped it. He managed to get a blower and a weed eater that were fastened to the pole saw. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. Luckily, we have 3 or 4 of everything.
Yeah.
So it didn't really affect us too much, but it would definitely affect, a one-man operation, somebody that's out there. There's a lot of guys that just do this by themselves because the personnel dance can be difficult.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about injuries because it's a very dangerous type of work.
Oh, definitely.
Any notable injuries that you've had?
Oh man,
Or seen?
plenty.
Let's hear 'em.
Couple so like no names getting thrown out here, but I had a gentleman that was working for me, and he literally stuck his hand into the mower. I'm not even kidding.
Why?
Cut off his fingers.
Oh my god! Like intentional
Oh, dude, no. I mean, I don't know. I still can't figure out like what his thought process was of doing this, but
Yeah.
there's a flap on the side of some of the mowers, and he went while the machine was running and lifted the flap. But like to lift that, you stick your fingers in there. I'm out on the mower in the front yard. He's cutting with me, and he's push mowing the back. He was actually my assistant for a period of time. It's kind of so I'm on the mower in the front, and he comes like waddling up to the front yard, and like I can't see all the blood, but he's got his hands like are out here in front of him like this, and like I mean he's just kind of like doing this like waddle towards me, and I'm like looking at him, I'm like, what? Like move, get out of the way, bro. And he's like just like wow, standing there right in front of me, and you know started looking crazy, and I'm like, so I stop, jump off. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? As I walk up to him, dude, I see that there's just like pools of blood in his hands. His finger, like it's literally his fingers are hanging off of his hands. And I'm like, oh my god. I'm yelling to the other guy. I'm like, get the equipment in the trailer now. We gotta go, dude. We gotta go. And I'm like, I'm calling 911 while escorting, trying to get him into the truck.
Yeah.
He's just, dazed and confused. Talking to him now, he still doesn't remember a lot from that day. That's the fastest I've ever driven with a trailer on a truck.
Oh my
It was very, very... Stuff was flying around. It was a little bit reckless, but I mean, his fingers are hanging off of his hand, man. I'm just like, patient first.
Yeah.
Wow, man, it was intense. Like, you ain't really never seen nothing until you seen guys' fingers hanging off his hands.
Is he still in the business?
I think he dabbled. He worked his way up to my assistant. Was my assistant for about 2 seasons. Started his own thing. I've had a lot of guys that work for me for 3 to 5 years and end up learning enough from me. They go start their own thing, and I love to see that. It shows I'm doing the right. I'm teaching right.
Not worried about them stealing your. You trust your own work enough to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about anybody. My clients are happy with me.
Yeah.
Prices are competitive enough that I don't worry about it. And if they can steal them out from under me, then we don't need them anymore anyway. So, I must have done something wrong, but hadn't really happened. And since 2011, I've lost 3 clients, I think.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good running rate.
Yeah. Let's back up to that guy with his fingers and then go back even further to the insurance.
Okay.
As a business, are you responsible now for his care?
So we definitely picked up the bill on that one. So there's, I try to look at it as from a standpoint, well, the injury itself, it's an individual base to base, was it due to negligence? Was it due, is this guy smoking? We drug test. If this guy fails a drug test, do I really need to pay for that? It's 50-50.
Yeah.
We avoid workman's comp claim, like the plague.
Yeah.
That's one insurance that is not very friendly to the pocket.
Yeah.
I'd rather pay for somebody's medical bill out of my pocket than to have to file workman's comp.
Yeah.
So we paid for the fingers.
I have a workman's comp from Broad Bay. I was carrying a table and the leg hit the door frame and the table hit me in the mouth and broke my front tooth.
Ooh.
So I'm covered for life on my front tooth.
Yeah. I'm sure they treated you on that claim. The insurance is probably fantastic.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, it's covered. I have like a sheet that says I can go anywhere and get it fixed if it's related to the injury. But anywho.
Yeah, Broad Bay paid a good penny for your tooth.
Yeah. Probably.
Probably more than they should have, but I'm just not on your end, but workman's comp.
Yeah.
Expensive insurance.
Another question that I have that I meant to ask kind of when we were talking earlier about maintenance or mowing. What's the proper thing to do? Are you supposed to bag the blades or let it go out?
So you can do either or. When you mulch the leaves up or the grass clippings, mulching is actually good for the grass, and not mulching as in like laying out hardwood mulch, but mulching up the organic material as you're cutting. There's an upside and a downside to that. The upside is you're recycling the material back into the lawn. It's breaking down. It's getting organically fed. Downside of that is you could spread disease that way too. Also, if there's some disease in the grass, you put the clippings back down. Now you're spreading it. Your blades are going to spread it. And that's one thing. Clean your blades. Not only sharpen them, but after every time you cut your yard, you should clean your blades off. Brown patch, vicious little fungus that we have in this area. It'll take out a lawn in about 2 weeks untreated.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quick.
Is there like a grass COVID that like?
That's pretty much grass COVID.
If you didn't clean your blades between houses, you could
transfer
have a
it.
super spreader.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, it happens. You have to pay attention. You really do. As the owner of the company, I feel responsible for all of our properties. So if we were to carry some disease from one property to that entire route, that's a lot of fungicide that I'm putting out for free.
Now, is that something you keep track of? Like, which places you went every day, just in case something happens like that?
Yes. We actually keep very, very rigorous notes. I've got these guys, I know we're getting further away from where you were wanting to go, but we can always backtrack. These guys clock in on their phones. We have got geofencing. So these guys have to clock in inside each fence. Every property has geofenced. With their clock in, they have to submit notes. So they'll submit pre-notes for before they work, and then they'll submit notes for after they work. We like our guys to walk each property beforehand, just to inspect, make sure that there's nothing in the grass that's going to surprise us, dog toys, pieces of metal, anything that could be shot out of the mower and potentially take out a window or a car, damage a car or, God forbid, a person.
Yeah.
So they do their pre-walk, they take notes on that, and then they do a post-walk after they've mowed, which are more for me. Those notes are to, do the invoicing. But that's all done right there on the clock in, clock out, right on their cell phones.
Wow.
It's a great program. We used to have to do all that stuff just manually, notepads and do a pack of cigarettes. I've got notes on cigarette pack before, man.
Now, is this something that was designed by a landscaper that said this would be a good idea?
I don't know if it was designed by a landscaper. The app is out of a company in New Jersey.
Some kind of worker, hard worker type deal.
Yeah, basically. But man, it saves a lot of work on our end.
Yeah.
It sets up, tees up payroll. Really, really makes things easy. But when they're doing that walk is when they're going to be looking for disease. So when they're walking the yard, they're looking at it, and if there's brown patch, they won't cut to prevent it being spread to other yards. So everybody, even the somebody on my crew that's just weed eating basically will know how to identify brown patch. that's why they stay with me for the first few weeks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we train them up right.
I mean, let's go back even further. Like when you were younger, I mean, when you were learning about photosynthesis, I mean, was that like you were paying attention, or you didn't know at that? You knew at that time that that's what you wanted to do?
I liked earth science. I loved earth science,
Yeah.
man. Just really passionate about it, and it just kind of always fascinated me. Just Mother Nature in itself. It's just amazing how the planet responds and reacts and is ever changing. Science. It's just so cool.
Yeah. What about I mean, what other kind of stuff do you do? I think I've seen you post pictures of I don't know that I might say the word wrong. Is it riprap?
Oh yeah. We just that was a fun one. We did riprap retaining wall. The guy's peninsula. His backyard was a peninsula. It was bulkheaded, kind of like the island green. Well, I guess it's kind of like an island green, but was it number 9?
At Broad Bay?
Yeah, or is it 7?
It's not, I think it's 5.
I think you're right. It is 5.
Yeah.
It is 5. It's kind of like that. It's where the bulkhead is actually holding the land in from washing away into the water. Well, his bulkhead blew out, and like on a massive scale. I'd say 80% of his backyard was beginning to erode into the lake. So, he's having the lake management association is, up his buns. You can't be doing this. Oh my gosh, you're sediment everywhere into the lake and it's offsetting everything. And so he was in really urgent need of us to get in there and retain all of essentially his backyard from washing away.
Wow.
And so we came in, it was 428 linear feet of riprap retaining wall that we used to stabilize his backyard.
Is that something you've done before?
Not on that scale.
Yeah.
No. It was a big undertaking for the company. I've done it a couple of times previous, but it was like 48 feet of a retaining wall, not 400.
Yeah.
So, but it came out perfect.
Yeah.
It really did, man. I was proud of that one.
Rick, yeah. Let's talk about the future of AR landscapes. I think I've seen you posting pictures. Your son likes to mow now. And
yeah, I had the drone. Did you see the drone video? It was following him mowing. Yeah, that's my youngest too.
Now, is he showing the same interest? Like, are you setting up him to take over one day?
I would love that. Yeah. I mean, ideally, when I started this, that was kind of the goal.
Yeah.
I build something for my family to have.
Yeah.
Hopefully support my family for years to come and their children and hopefully get everybody into some sort of good university. Turf University. But yeah, Trent is really looking like he's digging it. He loves to come to work with me. He's actually a pretty good worker. I've had him outwork some of the regular staff before. We didn't keep those guys that long, man. But, Trent's like dragging 16, he'll come to like a tree job to help clean it up. And he's, got a 16-foot branch in this arm, 16-foot branch in this arm. He's just trucking it, to the trailer.
Yeah.
And then there's one kid's over there like, I don't want to touch them because of the spiders. And it's like, bro, they're ants, man. Pick it up, dude. Come on.
Jeez.
Yeah.
No,
it's not for everyone.
As his father, are you concerned, like, with these carrying these, total 32-foot branches? How does that set him up? I don't know. I mean, I'm genuinely asking. Yeah. Is he going to, risk injuring himself?
Oh, well, no, I mean, he's just dragging them.
Okay.
And it's, I don't know, they probably had a circumference of like 3 inches.
Okay.
Like, yeah. It was maybe, it was branches that you and I could literally like pick up over our head without much strain. Yeah. Gotcha. I mean, we're not going to put him to work, but it was just funny because he literally outworking somebody I was paying to be there.
like I said, the spider kid didn't last that long.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I learned a lot. Thank you for stopping by and talking about this. I appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, man. Yeah, anytime, bro. Thanks for having me.
Frick yeah, man.
Awesome.
Keep killing it.
I will.